Okay, we're going to take a look at input and output. We will deal with process at some later stage. First of all, I'm going to delete these three because they're not actually good Python words. I'm going to start off with a keyword called print. That is one of three that we're going to be using in this series of videos. Another keyword, so print is for output. Another keyword is input, which we've already seen, and that has a special meaning in Python from the keyboard, which we'll deal with in a second. And lastly, we're going to deal with something called raw_input. Now, you really need to know the difference between these two. It is imperative. It's very, very important. And also the print statement, although it looks nice just being on its own, actually operates differently depending upon the values that we get from input and raw input. So what do I mean by values from input and raw input? Input can only accept numbers. Okay, it cannot accept any text whatsoever. If it does, you will have a big red message saying that you've made a mistake. We shall look at those shortly. To use text, we've got to ask it to do some raw input. Okay, that just deals with text. And in Python, we actually call text a string. And in fact, a string is anything that appears between two quotation marks. And notice they get coloured in green. So I can write the word hello inside here. You'll see that that is green. And we don't just call that a string, we call it a string literal. So that is the correct terminology for what happens between the two quote marks. So raw input can only take a string, and input can only take numbers like 1, 2, 3, or maybe 1, 2, 3.45. Okay. Their numbers. What it can't do is it cannot take in a string. If we try to do a string literal, it will crash, or it will also crash if we try to do 123B, as in the address of Sherlock Holmes in Baker Street, because it has a letter associated with the number. It might read the first part of the number and just ignore the B, but more than likely it will crash. So they are the three statements that we're going to be looking at: print, input, and raw input. You do need to know the difference between these. Very, very important. In the next one, we're going to look at print and how it works differently with numbers and how it works differently with text and how we can combine the two together.